And I have got a very special guest with us today, the one and only Miss Sharon Lechter, author of Think and Grow Rich for Women, co-author of Think and Grow Rich, 3 Feet from Gold, with my good friend, Dr. Greg Reed, Outwitting the Devil and Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Sharon, thank you so much for being with us today.
Ken, I'm so delighted. It was such an absolute pleasure to meet you.
Hey, take just a minute and tell our audience a little bit about what you've got going on, where you're located, and what you've got going on right now.
All right, super. Well, I live in Arizona. I've been here 30 years, Paradise Valley, and it is most of the time paradise. It's a little warm these days, but we're doing good. And I am dedicated to financial literacy, financial education. So everything I do is help people find that one thing that's going to take them to a higher level of financial confidence on their way to financial freedom. And I have a new book coming out in January called Exit Rich, and it's been picked up by Inc. magazine. You can get it now electronically by going to exitrichbook.com. And it really, I partnered with Michelle Seller-Tucker, who's the top business broker, female business broker in the country. She's the technician, is what you need to do to get prepared to sell. And I'm more the investor and the mentor, the strategy, understanding that if you're going to build a business, you should build it so that it's not just successful, but sustainable, scalable, and saleable. And yes, I've written quite a few books. I've had the opportunity of doing a lot of things because I've been around a long time, Ken. But right now, I'm really dedicated. I love working with my one-on-one mentoring clients from a standpoint of just really elevating them to the next level and opening that door. Because you mentioned, Greg, the first book we did, 3 Feet from Gold, we talked about the personal success equation, and a very strong element of that is power of association. So I'm excited to have my new association with you. And we are celebrating Napoleon Hill next week, as I mentioned to you before the show. So.
Yeah, well, I'm super honored and humbled. It was great to spend some time with you at Coach Burst Lodge with you and Tim Story a couple of weeks ago. And I do want to talk about the personal success equation, but you said something in that meeting. I know it just comes out of you because I know you don't look a day over 29 years old. So you can't be that old. You can't have not been doing this long. But you said something at the cabin at Coach Burst Lodge in that meeting with you and Tim a couple of weeks ago that I wrote down. It literally has been something I've talked about a lot, even on with my coaching clients and in my accountability group. And you said you don't need motion, you need motion, not magic. You said you need motion, not magic. Would you kind of unpack that for our audience? Because you said that I was sitting over in the kitchen area writing notes down, and you said, I was like, oh my gosh, that is so good. You don't need magic, you need motion. Will you kind of unpack that thought for our audience today?
Well, absolutely. One of the other critical elements of the personal success equation is action, and that is, you're not going to when you think about the movie and the book, The Secret, all right, the law of attraction. Well, good luck with just sitting there thinking good thoughts and expecting good things to happen, right? Good luck with that. But if you truly want success, as Napoleon Hill, who originally wrote about the law of attraction in 1919, he said, go the extra mile, all right? You have to actually do something. But yes, you want to have a positive mindset. And when, magic or luck is considered when preparedness meets opportunity, right? That's when you get lucky, because you train yourself to identify the opportunity and seize it, and you have the right people around you. And so magic is wonderful, but it is a wish, a dream. If you want reality, you need to constantly be in motion and taking action, and understand that you will have failures, and failures are not a definition. And a lot of people define themselves when they make a mistake thinking they are the failure. No, a failure or a mistake is an occurrence, not a definition. And
don't you think it's just a natural byproduct of action, though, is failure, Sharon?
Well, I don't know a single successful person in my many, many years that didn't go through some failures along the way. That's, success is not a straight line. It's up and down. And I think it's something that fail faster. You've heard people say that, fail faster to get to that success. How many no's can you take? Well, as many as it takes to get to the next yes. That's all forward motion. That's taking action.
Do you think most people, because we talk about paralysis by analysis, Do you think most people don't take action because they're afraid to fail, or nobody's ever really demonstrated what it looks like? Dr. Maxwell wrote a great book called Failing Forward, because failure is almost like, I see this in entrepreneurs. It's just, they're afraid to make a mistake.
It all comes back to that motion, to the action. Because if you during this pandemic, right, so many people have, talk about, we exchange our day pajamas for our night pajamas, or they sit on the couch and do, a binge session with Netflix. And it's like, what an opportunity we've had. Yes, it's been traumatic and it's been full of fear, but now fear, as you just said, paralyzes you. Fear can either paralyze you or motivate you. And so I've been working tirelessly over the last 6 months, getting people to understand how to turn that fear into focus, that focus into fuel, to seize the opportunity. Because some of today's most successful companies started during the Great Depression. Mm-hmm. The most successful companies solve a problem or serve a need. I think we have a few of those right now. And so ask yourself, are you going to take action to be on the front of the wave? Are you going to let the wave crash over your head?
When you talk about fear, turn fear into focus and into fuel, and you mentioned the Great Depression, even in 0809 during the housing crash, there were a dozen or more companies that are valuated now in the hundreds of millions of dollars range.
Exactly.
It happens every time we have some kind of an economic crash. Talk a little bit about that process of fear to focus to fuel, and the importance of mindset in coming out of a time of uncertainty like we're facing right now, Sharon.
Well, I think you mentioned Outwitting the Devil is one of the books I wrote. I have one right here. This was actually written back in 1938 because Napoleon Hill said when he released Think and Grow Rich, which was a 25-year project, he was frustrated. He said, even though I tell people or I share what they need to do, they don't do it. That lack of action, right? And so he really analyzed that. And the last chapter is 6 Ghosts of Fear, Think and Grow Rich. But then he took it further and he sat down and wrote Outwitting the Devil. Now, the title scared his wife to death and it got hidden away for 73 years. But it was really brought out. I think there was a greater power at work because I had the honor to bring it out. And on page 61, I'll just read this to you because it's pretty, it's goosebump worthy. He talks about the various types of fear, right? Fear of poverty, criticism, ill health, loss of love, old age, and death. Now, before 2020, I was talking about how I felt the most pervasive fear we have today is the fear of criticism, because of the social media, trying to keep up with the Joneses, that it keeps people from taking action because they're afraid they're going to look bad, right? Well, in 2020, that kind of, we everybody's in the same boat. So fear of criticism doesn't apply. But in the book on page 61, he says, he's interrogating the devil. And he said, well, which of those fears are your strongest? He says, the first and the last, poverty and death. At one time or another during life, I tighten my grip on all people through one or both of these. Wow. What has happened in 2020? The pandemic, fear of death, economic collapse, fear of poverty, and let's add fear of isolation. And so it has stopped everything. But what we see, I see that as taking that fear and turning it into focus. All right, so now we have this, we've been given permission to analyze every aspect of our life and say, what's working for me outside the purview of criticism, because everybody's in the same boat. All right. Who's on your team that appreciates you, loves you, and encourages you, or maybe even kicks you in the, to keep moving forward? Who's on your team who's pulling you back? Right. What are you doing with your time? Are you spending time or investing time? Right? This has been a great reset. And a lot of people use the word pivot, and I don't like the word pivot because pivot means you're changing directions from your ultimate goal. Now, there are times in my life that I've pivoted, but not when it's an external force. An external force, like what's happened this year, may throw you off course, but then you recalibrate, recalculate, and refire back to your original goal. So instead of pivoting, let's adapt, adopt, recalibrate, and move forward, taking action. because pivot means that you are changing what you want to do, your ultimate goal. And there are times in life we do that, but that needs to be from inside, not from external forces.
I love that. So turn fear into focus, into fuel, and talk about. I know one of the books you mentioned just a minute ago. One of my I had Greg on. Literally met Greg online. Had an Instagram live. I had him on the Instagram live. He came on my podcast when we kind of grew into a podcast. Had the book. Said, hey, I'm gonna be out in San Diego off air. He was like, come hang out. So I went to the house and hung out with him for a couple of hours, him and his son, and we just walked through the book. I'm not a very studious guy. I barely graduated high school. Numbers, I didn't like numbers until I went in the mortgage business and started making money. Then I started liking math. But it was one of the easiest books. I literally read it in about a week and a half, and I do not do that. So hats off to you as well for being the co-author on that. But one of the things in the book that you and Greg talked about was the personal success equation. Mm-hmm. Talk a little bit about that personal success equation. And I know you've kind of hit some nuggets along the way, but talk to our audience about that personal success equation and kind of some of the things you've got upcoming that have to do with that specifically.
Absolutely. So everything I do, I start with the personal success equation, from my one-on-one mentoring to my seminars, my webinars, because it is the basis. And it came from in 3 Feet from Gold. We interviewed a lot of people, and we're talking back in 2008 and 9 in the middle of the crisis. So we're talking to them not about their success stories, but how they survived the tough times. And it was just a magical book. It was such a wonderful experience. And from that, we drew those common elements from how they got to where they needed to be and got through the tough times when so many people stop 3 feet from gold, right? Right before they have success, they give up. They don't have the perseverance. And so each one of them had nuggets that were different on what worked for them. But the commonality was taking that personal success equation, which starts with your passion and your talent. Now, your passion can be love what you do what you love, or it could be a business that fuels what you want to do. Or in my case, it was what made me angry. I was mad we weren't teaching kids about money in school. And my talent, CPA for more years than I want to admit, lots of publishing. And so you combine that, but most of us stop there. That means we're doing everything by ourselves, right? True success comes from your passion, your talent times association. Who's on your team? Do you have people on your team who are strong where you are weak? Do you have a mentor? Right? The stats are in. People who have mentors are more successful than those who do not. Do you have somebody that's advisors that are giving you, in the book we talk about it, are you getting advice or counsel?
That's brilliant.
You want counsel, not advice. And then times action, what we've been talking about, forward motion, action, passion plus talent times association times action. We almost went depressed, but I said, Greg, there's still something different with these folks. And it was at the very end, plus F, faith. They had faith in themselves. They had faith in what they were doing. They had faith that it was needed and necessary. And that faith helped get them through the tough times. And so the two elements that I really stress with my clients is association and faith. Because too many people, that F is fear, holding them back, right? And we need to get rid of the blinders, because those opportunities are right there in front of you. The problem is that fear puts a blinder on us. We don't recognize them. And that's why the tagline is turning obstacles into opportunities, right? Getting energized when you see a problem. Oh, yay, problem. Okay, how can I solve it and make money from it, right? That's the innovation. That's the entrepreneurial spirit. I have a mantra, why not? Why not do something different? Why not take the road less traveled? Don't ask why, because when you ask why, you're waiting for someone else to tell you. Why not comes from within. It triggers your entrepreneurial spirit and your curiosity. So passion plus talent times association times action plus faith is a personal success equation. I have a guide at personalsuccessequation.com that will help you go through your own, and I trigger questions. So really look at it. But invariably, people need, because the associations or the mentor who got you to where you are today may not be the right one to get you to where you deserve to be, right? So you need to do a really good internal assessment is, where do you need the work to be able to get it? And when you have the right associations, it helps the faith. because the right people around you, you're going to feel more confident about your future.
Well, I know we both have two questions I want to ask. I know we both have a mutual friend, Brandon Dawson, that we both, I think the world of Brandon, absolutely love his heart, passion at Cardone Ventures to be able to help business people grow. You helped him in his business, get the valuation high enough to where he sold his company. I think at a time was close to being a record for the valuation that he had and sold his company for a little bit over $150 million. And I know that was huge because I know how Brandon talks about you, and really just, you really are when he talks about you, and even you did when we were at the lodge and we called Brandon that day on the phone. Both of you guys kind of had that gleam in your eye and such a high level of mutual respect. Would you say that the association in mentors, because it's always been big for me, would you say that helps more people turn that fear into faith?
Absolutely. Because a mentor can see possibilities for you that you can't, because they're not as emotionally involved in your business. And that's one of my superpowers, is when I start working with somebody, I can identify additional revenue streams, additional networks, whether it be geographically or industry based, or you can take your brilliance, your service, your product, and really exponentially increase your bottom line, because you find the right people that are going to do a strategic alliance and support you. And that's really, every bit of my success, from building the talking book industry to the Rich Dad Company, has been through strategic partnerships, strategic alliances, and finding the right people to take us to the next level.
What would you say? How should people go about if they don't have mentors? Like, what would you suggest to business owners or entrepreneurs who are saying, well, man, I don't get invited to come to a cabin and spend time with Tim Story and Sharon Lechter and Coach Michael Burt? Like, what would you advise people?
Well, I invite you all to come to Phoenix, because we're having another one of those comeback tour events on September 29th. So right here in Phoenix, I'd love for you guys to all come. And we can send you the link if you want that. It's through Coach Burt's website. You'll see that. But there are lots of ways to have mentors. Reading helps you from a mentoring perspective. Think and Grow Rich for Women. When I wrote that, I have over 300 women I highlight, so you can learn from incredible women. Hands-on mentoring is obviously the best, one-on-one. There's also group mentoring. What we did before the pandemic, luckily, about a year and a half ago, I said, we need to have a greater presence online. So I took what I do with all my mentors and created an online program with a private Facebook group. So people who can't afford the price of the one-on-one mentoring can go through this online program and still have access through a private Facebook group, the Play Big Movement. And that program really walks them through what I do with all of my clients. Obviously, it's not as good as one-on-one, because when you do one-on-one, I step into your world. I step into your business and really analyze everything that you're doing and identify, if I bring in my marketing team, I bring in my IT team, whatever needs to happen to get your business singing, because your business should be an economic engine. And too many people don't get it to that point. They don't build the foundation of the business. It's kind of like a three-legged stool. You got your product or your service, you love it. You've got your ability to sell it and to present it, and you really practice on that. But that third leg of the stool is always weak, and that's your corporate structure, your platform. You can have the greatest book, the greatest product, the greatest service, but if you don't have a system for people to find you that's repeatable and scalable, then you're not going to achieve the success that you deserve. So you really have to look at the entire organization, and that is through getting the right kind of mentor.
Yeah, I love that. And I just know in my entire life, everything I've done, from being in full-time ministry, from being a college baseball umpire to college basketball umpire, a referee, to, doing my podcast with Grant and with you and with Greg, my time I got to spend with Greg, he texted me a couple of days ago, just being able to reach out to people and go, hey, I've got an idea. What do you think about this? Mm-hmm. And for somebody to be able to kick it back and go, that's great. Or, hey, Ken, have you thought about this? Just really having, and one of the things my mentor and pastor told me 10 years ago was, he said, Ken, I'm the guy in your life that has a 10,000 foot view of what's going on. Mm-hmm. I see what's coming down the road. And you said it just a minute ago, my superpower. My superpower is to be able to see it through a lens where I remove the emotion, because we do. So why is it important for us to have somebody who sees it for what it is and not through an emotional lens?
Well, it's your baby. So as the CEO or the founder or the entrepreneur, you are invested emotionally as well as financially. And I always say high emotion is low intelligence, right? So bringing in a mentor allows you to listen to be a sounding board with knowledge, experience, and wisdom. So they're bringing all their experience. In fact, last week somebody said to me that they said, "Well, we don't believe the only real teach. You have to experience it yourself to really learn." And I disagree with that. Your mentor, I help people steer around pitfalls. I help them learn through my experience and my opportunities. And when I built the talking book industry, were parents going to trust a new company? No. So we aligned with Disney, Warner Brothers, Sesame Street, and that built that level of trust, right? So understanding how you get to the market, speed of market is very important. And then understanding how you can do those strategic alliances. And I have the benefit of 40-year marriage with Michael Lechter, who's an intellectual property attorney. And so we have the opportunity to work with our clients on every aspect of their business to make sure they get the greatest opportunity and make sure they have the right agreements. So many times, Ken, today, particularly with everybody being independent contractors, if you don't have the right agreement with somebody, you don't own it. You got to have the right agreements. And so many people find out down the road when they want to sell their business that it doesn't have the valuation it should because they haven't gotten the right agreements in place.
Phenomenal. Couple personal questions for me.
Sure.
Favorite book you've done?
I get that a lot. I've written 25 books. So that's like asking me which child is my favorite. I will say that from a mindset perspective, Cash Flow Quadrant, which was the second book I wrote with Rich Dad, is probably the best from a mindset for really getting rid of obstacles in your way, outwitting the devil. And then for women, Think and Grow Rich for Women is probably as close as I can get to a favorite.
Yeah. You mentioned to me earlier off air that next Tuesday, the 15th, you guys are doing a personal success equation from 10 to 1 p.m. 10 a.m. to 1 p.m.
Napoleon Hill. Yeah, we're celebrating.
Okay, yes, that's right.
Yeah. Greg Reed and I, who wrote 3 Feet from Gold together, as well as Success and Something Greater, we are pulling together some other authors from the Think and Grow Rich series to celebrate Napoleon Hill. It's 10 to 1 Pacific time on the 15th. And it's going to be a great day of talking about the contributions made by Napoleon Hill and answering a few of the questions out there about, did he die broke? He did not. But we're going to really dig deep into the psyche behind it and how you can find that just that one thing that can take you to the next level. And you can go to TGR, Think and Grow Rich, tgrlegacy.com to register. It's a free event. So please join us 10 to 1 on September 15th, 10 to 1 Pacific.
Is that going to be a Zoom call or is that a live event?
It's Zoom. It's totally virtual. Okay. It'll be Zoom.
Awesome. Well, hey, man, again, completely honored that you came today. It was funny for our audience. I had just had Brandon on my podcast, and I told Brandon that I was going to meet you at Coach Burt's, and he said, "Hey, tell her I said hello." And as soon as I mentioned to Sharon, I said, "Yeah, I had Brandon on my podcast." The first thing she said was, "Well, how come I haven't been on your podcast?" I said, "Well, how about we make that happen?" And so we made that happen. So Sharon, I just want to say a huge thank you. I know that you have been in your short 29 years, you've made an unbelievable impact in a lot of people's lives. And so on behalf of everyone that's read a book, thank you. Just in the you have an innate way of making people feel valued and adding tons of value while you're around. And I group people into two categories. There are thermometers, people who walk in a room and gauge the temperature of a room, and then there are thermostats, people who can walk into a room and immediately change the temperature or the culture in a room. And you, my friend, are a thermostat by far. So I just want to say thank you. Guys, y'all check.
iPad. That's the first time I've heard that. That's great. I love it.
Oh, well, thank you. You guys make sure you check out Sharon's Napoleon Hill, tgrlegacy.com next Tuesday. the 15th from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Pacific time. Or you can also go to personalsuccessequation.com and check that out. And our new book. What was the website on the new book again?
ExitRichBook.com.
Exit Rich
Again,
Book.
I'm trying to innovate the publishing industry. Because of the pandemic, the publication date got delayed till January through Inc. Magazine. And so if you sign up for it now, if you pre-order now, we are going to send it to you electronically now, and then you'll get the actual book in January as well.
Hard copy to come in there. Sharon, thank you for making a difference.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And please reach out to me, info@Sharon Lechter, Instagram, Facebook. I'm Sharon Lechter pretty much everywhere. So please connect with me, and I'd love to hear from you. And thank you,
Sharon,
Ken, for what you're doing.
Oh, you're more than welcome, sweetheart. Enjoy the 110-degree temperature in Phoenix.
Yep.
Hey guys, thank you for joining us today for our Grow Stack Drive podcast and our amazing guest today, Miss Sharon Lechter. We'll see you Friday at noon Eastern time for our next podcast. Miss Sharon, you have a blessed day, sweetheart.
Thank you.